Hi there, good afternoon, how's it going? So the apartment that I showed where I'm staying is right up there in that building. So this is my last day here in Bucharest, the capital of Romania. I originally booked 4 nights here in order to give myself time to catch up with the editing, catching up with the Romanian road trip videos that I posted last, and then hopefully to have plenty of time left to film in Bucharest here, but it didn't quite work out that way. I am flying out tomorrow morning, and so this is it for Bucharest, this video here. I just ended up being busy the past 3 days dealing with the video editing because I got a little bit behind there with the road trip videos, and so a little bit of a shame to not show more of Bucharest. Now this is my second time here. I was here before on my last trip to Romania 5 years ago in the middle of winter, in the middle of a blizzard, at least for part of the time that I was here. It was snowing, so it is great to experience it in totally different, very sunny, summery conditions here in the middle of August. Look at that beautiful church there. Let's take a closer look. This is the old town of Bucharest. Great location for my apartment there. Wow, I just love this style of kind of earthen colors. There you can see it says Monument Historic, and then what is that writing there? Is that Romanian or not Latin by the looks of it, so I guess it must be Romanian, I would assume. Okay. The Annunciation, St. Anthony, Princely Old Court Church. Founded by Mircea Ciobanul, it is considered Bucharest's oldest church. Wow! Assuming a neo-Gothic appearance at the repairs done after the Great Fire of 1847, will be restored to its original form through the interventions of 1914 and 1928 to 1935. Wow! I didn't realize that my apartment was looking at the oldest church in Bucharest. And today is a Sunday. Okay, so the idea with this video was to tell a story from my recent Romanian road trip, as you can see what it's about in the title, while walking the streets, and so in the process then show you a bit of Bucharest here. The plan is to walk over to the Jewish area because I've heard that it is very interesting, and I don't think that I made it over there the last time that I was in Bucharest. So my experience of being pulled over by the police here in Romania with the rental car because I was speeding. Now, I want to say something else first. Let's get out of this area here. Oh, I'm okay for now. Thank you. Maybe for dinner later. Great Romanian food? Yes. Excellent. I love Romanian food, so.
Thank you.
See you. So Lebanese cuisine, Italian, ice cream, great spot for a drink or eat, and it gets even livelier in the evenings. So I wanted to say something at the beginning here, which is, don't drink and drive. Obviously, we should all know that. Any remotely responsible person. So, the reason that I'm saying that is for two reasons. First, to clarify, from one of my previous videos, then I showed myself drinking a beer, and then the next clip, literally 1 second later, was me filming while driving down a winding mountain road. And so there were a number of comments from people about that. So just wanted to clarify about that. First of all, I did not guzzle a beer or two and then jump in the car and go drive. There was a period of time that elapsed there. I was there drinking that one beer for an hour or two, something like that. A small beer, it was like 3.7%. It was like low alcohol. And so I was feeling nothing when I got back in the car. But I learned something in the comment section that I wanted to impart here about driving in Romania. Wow, another totally different silence. So the main reason that I am bringing this up here is because in the comments I learned that Romania has a zero tolerance policy towards drinking and driving. So in the US, it will depend on the state, but there is a percentage of alcohol in your system, at which point you are then determined to be illegally drinking and driving because you are at the point of being unsafe. But you can drink a glass of wine or a beer or maybe even two, and then of course it depends on how much time elapses, etc., and then drive a car and you're not considered to be, drunk driving. You had one drink or whatever, but that doesn't make you dangerous necessarily. Central Historic Bucharest, the National Bank of Romania, the Linden Tree Inn, Old Court Church, Savings Bank restaurant. So various historical buildings around here. Very interesting area, great place to stay, to explore the city, to be able to just walk out here and see all these old buildings, and then you have these pedestrian areas. I think it is just blocked off for now, maybe for the weekend. It was like this last night as well. And so this evening should be a very nice scene of more people out and about as it cools down and people go out for dinner, etc. And so according to what people were saying in the comment section, then Romania has a zero tolerance policy towards drinking and driving, which means any detection of alcohol in your system when driving and you can be found guilty of drinking and driving. And so that is why I'm bringing this up, as it is something to keep in mind and be aware of in Romania, and maybe this is the case in other countries. I just did not know this because it is a different policy in the United States. And so knowing that, then that will make a difference in my decision on whether to, have even just one drink and then drive, even if it is 2 hours later or whatever, knowing that there is that policy. My point here is just to pass that along, to keep that in mind as a traveler, whether you're in Romania or perhaps elsewhere, that the rules aren't necessarily the same as the US. You can't necessarily have a glass of wine with dinner, hang out for an hour or two, and then get in your car and be, free and clear and not take a chance at getting caught drunk driving. So different laws in different countries in that regard, and of course you want to err on the side of caution and safety. So don't drink and drive whatsoever in Romania, whereas in the US you can have your beer, and just make sure you aren't intoxicated, buzzed, remotely impaired, obviously. So I just want to underline that that is of utmost importance. Do not drink and drive, but depends a bit on the circumstances and the laws in wherever you are. So, getting to the title of the video here, I was in fact pulled over by the police for speeding in Romania, not that same day that I was in the Carpathian Mountains, but 2 days later, which was 3 days ago, on my last day on my Romanian road trip, when I drove from Petrosani back to Timisoara to drop off the car and catch my flight here to Bucharest. So this happened in the middle of that drive. I never mentioned it in the video, but here's what happened. So I was driving along, basically leaving a city, or like medium-sized town or something. I had basically left the town behind. It was a 4-lane road, not a freeway, but the town was behind me, no longer, you know, buildings around, and I was driving at a speed that, to me at the time, seemed totally reasonable. In my opinion, then, this was really a classic speed trap in which you've left town, you think you're, you know, free to start accelerating, but then the speed limit is very low. So a couple things to keep in mind when it comes to traveling in Romania is that Romanian drivers are pretty aggressive. If you're going like 20 kilometers an hour over the speed limit, you will most likely have people on your butt acting like you're a slowpoke and trying to get past you and stuff. But then, meanwhile, the speed limits can be quite low, especially in comparison to the regular speed of traffic. So I am on the inside lane, 2 lanes this way, 2 lanes this way. So I'm on the inside lane. I think that I was in fact passing somebody else. I believe that I even saw the cop car over on the road. And it didn't even occur to me to hit the brakes because I just did not think that I was speeding at all. I don't know when or where there had been a recent speed limit sign. You know, they aren't especially abundant, and so you don't necessarily know what the exact current speed is. I mean, for the most part, we're all driving at the speed of traffic, what seems reasonable for the place, as opposed to checking specific speed limit signs all the time. So I see the cop car, and then I see that they have a speed gun, radar gun, and then one of the cops motions at me to pull over. There's 2 policemen, 1 car. So I pull over, pull up. Basically the cop car is right in front of me, facing towards me, and one of the policemen walks up to me. I roll down my window, and the first thing I say is, "Do you speak English?" And he says no, and then he looks back at his partner and says something, obviously, "Hey," whatever his name is, because he's younger and he does speak English. So they switch, and the other guy comes over. He seems quite friendly, and his English is quite good. So he says, "You were going 72. The speed limit here is 50. So we're talking kilometers per hour." Now, I forget exactly how much that would be, but 50 kilometers per hour is about 30 miles an hour. So that is a very low speed limit. I was going 72, so that's like, 45 or so. So I was going, 45 miles an hour in a 30 mile per hour zone. And as I said, I've left town. It's a 4-lane road. Still thinking back on it, that seemed very, very slow to me. But anyways, that's the rules, that's the law. And he says there's going to be a fine and I need to see your documents. So I pull out my Oregon driver's license, my international driving permit. I highly recommend that if you're going to travel and especially rent cars, get an international driving permit, even if it is not necessarily required for where you're going, but you never know how it might help, and it definitely did help in this situation, I believe. And then he also asked for my passport. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead because I want to show the Jewish quarter before I finish this video. Not quite sure what this is. 1987. Communist. Something in Romanian with a cross. But we are going into the Jewish neighborhood out there, apparently. So there you can see a menorah on a statue of a lion, and here it says Piata, so I guess like Plaza Ierusalimuli, so Jerusalem Plaza, something like that. But it isn't quite what I expected. It's very quiet and mostly rather normal looking buildings, and then here we have a church, so I'm not quite sure what I'm missing as far as the recommendation to go to the Jewish neighborhood of Bucharest. So far, not especially impressed. There is a synagogue there, and then another one that I will visit on my way back, but we'll see what else we come across here. At least it is quieter for finishing this story. So the policeman asked for my documents. I gave him my driver's license, my international driving permit, and my passport. He asked me a few questions, where am I going, what am I doing? I tell him I'm a tourist traveling around, returning my rental car in Timisoara, etc. And he's very friendly through the whole exchange. He says something about a fine, and I ask him, can I pay now? Even though that's not usually the way that it works, but it's worth asking. And he then seems to kind of clarify that it might just be a warning. So that is sounding better, obviously. In that moment that I am kind of replaying in my head the Italian parking ticket fiasco, in which paying the parking ticket was not the issue as far as the money. It was actually dealing with it and figuring out how to pay it that was just an absolute nightmare that sucked up like days of my time. And so paying for a speeding ticket in Romania, you don't want to have to pay for something like that, but probably the cost wouldn't be huge. But I'm thinking about the hassle of like, okay, great, now what am I going to have to do, especially when I'm like flying out of there back to Bucharest and then gonna leave, etc. But it is sounding like it might just be a warning. So he takes my documents and says he's going to write up the ticket and heads back to the police car. I see him sitting there for quite a long time, waiting. It takes a good like at least 15 minutes or so. And then finally he comes back with my documents and hands me the paper that he had filled out all the information, and indeed, good news, he's just giving me a warning. And then I forget what he asked me next, but basically he was interested in what I was doing in my traveling, and we end up having a great conversation. He's asking me about like traveling to the United States and how he's afraid to go there because he sees all these shootings in the news, and it sounds like the United States is a dangerous country. So, you know, it's a little bit ironic considering that Americans, for the most part, probably think of Romania as a dangerous place. But what's the latest news that you saw about bad things happening in Romania, other than, you know, Andrew Tate being imprisoned, I guess, somewhere around here. I assume he's in Bucharest. I forget, not sure, but that's been the like only international news coming out of Romania since I don't know when, since Ceausescu was assassinated, or as far as like something that is in the news in the United States concerning Romania. It's not like we're seeing shootings happening here or kidnappings or tourists getting robbed or anything like that. So there's really a lot more reason to have a negative view of the United States and think that it is a dangerous place just based on the news. But what I say to him when he mentions this is, you know, those are unfortunate circumstances, but still in the big picture, it's still quite safe to travel in the US. You don't really have to worry about that. You know, I've never seen a shooting in the United States or anywhere. And so I'm kind of reassuring him, like, yeah, you can go to the US, don't worry about what you're seeing in the news. And then he's asking me how I managed to afford to travel. And so I don't bring up the fact that I'm a YouTuber to people out of the blue. I would kind of prefer to avoid the issue because it then goes into a conversation that I've already had a million times. You know, it's like, oh, so you make money on YouTube? Yep. And it can pay for your travels? Yeah, I make enough to travel on. And if people aren't familiar with how YouTube works, then it's going to be the same questions that I've answered before. But as soon as somebody asks me the question, what do you do for a living? How do you pay for your travels? Then I have to say YouTube. I'm not going to make up something and then I'm stuck in a lie that I don't know how far it's going to go for if they start asking more questions. I just don't want to go down that road of a lie. And so as soon as somebody asks me, what do I do for a living, then I say I have a YouTube channel. And so then that leads into that conversation. And so that's where it went. And then he was very interested in the fact that I could, you know, make a living traveling. Okay, that is probably the synagogue that I'm looking for. There was another one, the Great Synagogue, that I forgot to stop and look for. But I think that it was maybe newer and not as interesting. I think it was maybe that building right there, as far as what I saw on Google. But this one is more historic by the looks of it. So, yeah, we just got in this conversation. He was super friendly. He was super curious. He was very kind of just open-minded and like wanted to soak up some information in that moment from me while he had the chance, it seemed like. And then he subscribed to my channel. And so for all I know, he might end up watching this video. And so it was a warning. I don't have to do anything. But it did the job of making me more aware of speed limits, and I was more careful and cautious for the rest of the drive that day. And then also, as I mentioned, the thing about drinking and driving, then learn about that in the course of the comments under that video. So lesson learned. Things worked out as well as they could have. Could have been better, could have been worse. In the end, I used up a half an hour or whatever, which was a little bit of a shame when I had limited time, but I understand they got to do their job, and it is actually a very important job, especially when, as I mentioned, Romanians tend to drive quite fast, and so it's actually exactly what needs to happen is more cops on the streets trying to get people to slow down. So, all good there. Okay, where did it go? And here it is. It was hiding, and it is really beautiful. Okay, wait. This is not a synagogue. This is a church. But I am right near the synagogue. I just looked on my map and I was like a minute away. And so I thought this was it at first glance. Historic monument. St. George Old Church, built in 1875 to 1881. Baroque style. So that is one of the interesting things about seeing the various churches, is they are so different depending on the time period. I mean, this is utterly, completely different from that first one that we saw. Okay, where did the synagogue go? I think Google said that it was maybe over there. So this is funny. I walked right past here, crossed the street at some point, and walked along that street there for a block, and then took a left up there. That church that I just showed is directly opposite side of this building here. I didn't notice this building hiding in plain sight, so to speak. It is all covered up by this tree if you don't happen to be looking this direction. And of course I didn't have my phone out because I was talking, but Menorah right there. And Hebrew, unfortunately, closed, but beautiful building. So I'm going to head back to my room, get this video edited, and then tomorrow, catching a flight. I'm not going to give any hints about where I'm going next, in part because I have no idea what is going to happen, where I'm actually going to end up. I will just say that it is a country that I've been to twice before, but I won't be booking accommodation for tomorrow night because of the unknown factor of I have no idea what is going to happen here. So you will find out in the next video. That is all for Bucharest. That is the end of the Romania series for now. Romania jumped up to being one of my favorite countries for sure. One of those ultimate exploring places where you can just drive and see fascinating stuff, pull over wherever, and it is interesting, it is different, it is historic. Right here, little piece of history. What year was that thing made? I don't know, 50s, 60s, 70s. So this is a country I definitely hope to come back to again sometime and see more. I will put one of my old Bucharest videos down below the video here if you want to see more of this city. Even though it was winter, snow on the ground, it wasn't actually snowing the whole time. I did make a video showing more of the monuments and everything. So look for that link down below. And next stop, somewhere very different.